up? Welcome to the Keys to Success. It has been some months since we have had a guest on the show. Summertime was summering, the girls were girling. Tonight is one of the most important conversations that I'm going to have. It's with one of the most amazing people. She just joined us. And this conversation is going to be one that really shows the range of some of the most amazing people that exist in our scene. Tonight we will be talking to the incomparable Leiomy Maldonado. Let's add Leiomy. Let's find my friend, sister. I hope you guys are excited as I am. This is going to be intense. I love this girl. Let's get Leomi. Let's see, we're getting a little lives. The girls are rusty, except ladies and motherfucking gentlemen, the dolls, sister.
What's the tea?
Ladies and gentlemen, Leomi. First of all, everybody, let's just fight. Come on, let's just give it the fuck out. It's the bitch, the baddest bitch in the motherfucking game. Lay, how are you?
I'm pretty good.
First of all, you are sitting, bitch.
Wait, hold on. Don't start with that late shit, because you know I...
No. No, actually, a lot of people don't know that we've tried to do this for a couple times, and it just didn't work out. And then when this time actually happened, like, I got so excited, and literally so many people blew up my phone. They had no idea, and I think a lot of people are excited to like talk to you, and I'm probably like the top one. How are you feeling? First of all,
I'm pretty good.
I mean, you look a doll. It's giving me Selena with the little puppy car. I was gonna put on a filter, face to face, but I decided, I'll let you have it. But anyway, everybody's hyped. I'm gonna jump right in. The only question that I always ask my guests before we just go into an amazing conversation is, how did we meet?
Oh, I actually don't remember when we met though, because I know it was somewhere at a ball.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, it was.
but I met you actually on tape, because I watched you on tape before.
Oh yeah, from the balls.
VHS tape. We're telling our age.
The VHS girl. The VHS girl. I also kind of don't remember us formally meeting. Like, I don't remember that, but I do. I remember the first time that I ever saw you. And that was at the YMCA when you walked. Yes, when you walked Beginner's Vogue. I told you when we were on the phone that I would wait till now to tell you, like, your nickname for me has always been the Phoenix. Oh. And that was from that ball. So, like, how did you find ballroom?
Gag. I found ballroom going to a Boys and Girls Club in the Bronx. I was about like 15 years old when I came across my first mentor, and she used to work in the kitchen at the Kids Bay Boys and Girls After School program. So she would work in the kitchen, and I met her, and I see her voguing one day, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And then she started telling me about voguing, and she was like, "Don't worry, I got something for you." So the weekend passed, and then I came back after the weekend, and she had a VHS tape. So I went home, put the VHS tape in there.
Who was on the tape?
I got sucked into Wonderland.
Got sucked in. So wait, was it female figures or was it the
It was only femme queens.
Yes.
At the time, it was only femme queens. Like, it was Sanaya. I see videos of Alora, Mika, Yolanda, and I think that was it for that tape, for that first tape. Because I remember it. I remember it like yesterday.
So like after that, that's when you kind of just like started adapting.
After that, I started going to HMI, which is, an after-school program out here in NYC. And that's when I met, like, Deshawn, Roxy, and, like, all those type of girls. And then I got introduced to the clubhouse.
You and Roxy kind of came up together, yes?
No, they was out before me, gag. They was out for at least, like, a year or two before me.
So once you started getting into Vogue, like, how long did it take for you to, like get the I don't want to say get the balls. I was like, how long did it take for you to get the guts to hit the floor?
Honestly, it didn't take me long because that same year, like at the end of the year, I walked my first ball. That was 2003. So I walked the awards ball. It was me and Deshaun, and it was both them. And we both got sent packing. They said, "Hi, y'all, bitch."
Oh wow! This is before. This is pre-transition, right?
Literally, yes.
Yeah.
I was still a baby. I was still a
The first
baby.
time I saw you, I think you were drag. Well, to me, it was drag.
That was no. That was. I was already living in drags though. Yeah, because the first
Okay.
time I got in drags, for me, it was just drags for like 2 years, and then I found
For
out about
real.
hormones. And then I found out about hormones.
How old
But
were you?
when you first saw me, when I started hormones, I was about like 19. So when you first saw me, I was 17, and that's when Leomi, that was my first time actually walking as Leomi. It was the 2004
Mm.
awards ball. So I got chopped 2003 awards ball, and then I waited a whole year. Came back the next year, and I introduced Leomi, and that's when I won my first trophy.
What was the transition like process like adding in ballroom and adding in vogue? Because like I feel like a girl that's probably not in our scene when she's going through that might have a different experience than like what the scene kind of presents. So like what was that
Mhm.
like?
I feel like for me it was easy, especially at home. I've always been like a tomboy. So I wasn't too much of a girly girl growing up. As you know, I was always into like, more of a tomboy style. That's always been my style. So for me, I felt like it was more comfortable. And then coming into ballroom, it was hard because they used to read me because I was a tomboy. They wanted me to be more feminine and more glam. And I'm like, no.
Mm. How did you battle with that? Like when it was coming in, because like you're young and like as kittens,
I used to
a
pay
lot of
it.
things like I
I
come
used to
from the
pay
same
it because for me, I fell in love with Vogue, so I didn't care about what they said. Like to me, I felt like I was happy in my transition, in the level of transition that I was
mm,
at. I was comfortable, I was comfortable. So people talking shit about me. In the long run, it took me a long time for me to actually accept my body, like my body
mm,
type, and to realize like I'm an athletic woman, and we exist.
mm.
And although in ballroom for a very long time, like now things have changed, of course, but for a very long time when I was a part of ballroom, they didn't really care about seeing an athletic girl. They always kind of
Yeah,
judged it as a
it became
masculine thing.
like the glam girls.
Hmm.
The glam girls. So like when you were as you were coming into the Vogue, because I don't want to spend a lot of time on the Vogue. I feel like you've evolved into such amazing human being that all of the Vogue stuff exists. If the bitches
Hmm.
don't know what you provided to the scene, that's a different motherfucking conversation. But I do want to give people like the context of it. So
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
as you went through that journey that I think, all of us in Vogue watched, when did you, in your mind, feel like you arrived?
Mm. I would have to say it was the 2006 POCC ball.
Mika.
Um, Yes, and I say that because I felt like everybody that I looked up to kind of gagged that day, and they actually saw me that day. I feel like before it was like, okay, this bitch go off, she
Yeah.
does her thing, she comes through and she does her thing. But I felt like that night it was solidified. Like, wait a minute, this bitch is actually gonna be a problem. And
Absolutely.
and for me,
Absolutely.
it was still kind of like a gag. Like you
Yeah.
gag too. I saw you gagging
The
too, so I got my line.
reason why I will absolutely agree with you with that is because the reason why I always nicknamed you the Phoenix was because you when you Vogue and your personality and all that kind of stuff is Jean Grey and the Phoenix. When you would be in the floor and when you would Vogue, you had the ability to do some of the most amazing things, but there was just no control to it. Like it was
Hmm.
almost like you could throw yourself into anything or get yourself out of any move, but we couldn't follow it. We didn't know where it was going.
Hmm.
And a lot of times they'd be like, who is this bitch and what is she doing? And it's like the way Jean Grey can't control the Phoenix,
Hmm.
it was almost like you couldn't control the Vogue. That night at the POCC, to be in the floor, first of all, with a girl of Mika's status. Mika
Hmm.
was a girl at that point. Mika was a girl at that point that on GP, Mika could have sat on the side of the panel, painting her face, whipping her hair, and they would have let her sit you.
Yes.
And she rightfully would have sat you with all of the things that you were doing.
Hmm.
There were one point you went up to the panel, you bent to the fucking left, and completely did what is now the birth of one of the most revolutionary fucking moves, the 360. Everybody in that place, including me and everybody, went like this.
Even
what the fuck did that bitch just do?
Even the prodigies gagged, but they couldn't show
Everybody
it because
gagged, bitch. Everybody gagged. No one understood what happened. And I will agree, that's exactly when you fucking arrived. Because in this moment, we could not vote for Mika rightfully in a decency of saying that she just ate you. Because in that moment, you had, yeah, and it's like every girl has that. But I totally agree. So from that moment, what happened? What now became Leiomy as a performer?
I feel like with ballroom around that time after Nika, that's when they started implementing like, because remember I used to vogue in like flats, so I was always in like
You a
a
sneaker bitch.
Jordan. I was in a Jordan or in a Converse, baby, cutting up.
Yeah.
But they was like, you're a girl, you walking femme queen, junior femme queen now, you should be in a heel. They like forced me
Was it Bush
to
Queen
look.
pressure?
I feel like it was everybody, because even the girls too. No shade of femme queens too. The femme queens used to be like, Miss Thing, I'm voguing in a heel. And I
Right.
used to be like, okay, girl, I'll still hate you. But I feel like although ballroom was pressure, like was they pressured me a lot in different kind of ways. I loved it because it kind of like shaped me into being the performer that I am today. Like
Yeah.
getting into the heels and perfecting that. Then bitches was like, you should be voguing more soft. And that's when like the soft era came. And then, it took me a while for me to get through that because that was tough. Having to go from just voguing out of emotion and being dramatic because honestly, I use voguing as a stress reliever.
Really?
Voguing helped me through, yes, because my childhood was very like sheltered. Like I didn't really have much of a childhood. So coming into the ballroom scene, that was me learning about the
Did
world,
you have
honestly. Being around,
siblings? Did you have siblings?
yes, I have siblings, but I was always like the black, the black sheep.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, like my dad had got sick when I was very young, and when we moved into my grandmother, because she took care of my dad and me, and she already had one of my siblings. My eldest siblings went to go live with my grandfather, but she made me his nurse. So from the age of like 8 to like 13, I was literally just going to school, coming home, taking care of my dad. Like I had to learn medication, I had to take care of him, bathe him. And like that was my life. So coming into like being 13, 14, 15, then learning about myself and coming into the ballroom scene, that's when I really learned a lot. So I learned a lot of myself through ballroom and through voguing because I was very like enraged, like
Yeah,
just things
a
that I
lot of
didn't
people don't
understand.
realize. A lot of people don't realize that ballroom is that kind of savior for a lot of
Hmm.
us, and a place that we do have an outlet. So, like when you would turn the rage into your dance in a way of just free expression,
Hmm.
and then over time it evolved.
Yes, and then it became art.
That makes total sense. And it's like, because the way you vogue, you was going through some shit.
No
Like
shade, you could tell.
you was taking it out on the bitches. Like you were taking it out
No
on the
shade.
girls. But that makes sense. That makes sense. I don't think a lot of people know you in that like that personal
Mm-mm.
way. Did you have a lot of grief like growing up and like different things before you kind of came into your womanhood?
Honestly, I didn't really focus on none of that. I was just focusing on myself. I had left home at like the age of 17-ish, and I just took time to like learn who I was and who I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like everything else I started dealing with like in my mid 20s. That's when I started dealing with like, my childhood traumas and things like that. And, started realizing that how those things affected my personality and certain things and how I would react to people and how I react to things. And, like it's been a journey. So I feel
Yeah.
like I took a long time to know myself. That's why I've been always so confident. And, I just, no matter where I've been, whether I look fierce or not, bitch, I still felt like that fat girl. I
Right.
knew that I always had confidence, so it didn't even matter.
Yeah, I'm similar in that way that a lot of people like I've come into my ball celebrity, I guess, but for a really long time, the underdog from Baltimore. I used to have eczema, like I used to have like skin things, and it's like our scene can be very pretentious. So
Mm-hmm.
I know, oh bitch, like girl, like and then we're girls, so it's just like we get it even worse.
We
So
do get it
now,
worse.
okay, so now you come into your girl, and now you're the girl. I think we all fucking know that you became the girl. In that moment, did ballroom or the people around you, the closest people, did they change at all?
I feel like leaving houses changes your experiences in ballroom,
Yeah.
And you learn a lot when you leave a house. And I feel like after leaving Mizrahi, because I was in Mizrahi for so long, like I was in Mizrahi for like 7 years or something
Mhm.
like that. And I was like the face of Mizrahi because literally I was everywhere, state to state. Like they knew if Leiomy was coming, she was coming to play with the girls.
Mhm.
But I feel like leaving houses is what kind of changed things because that's when people started changing. I feel like when it came to like the judges and all of that, I always expected the worst because I always got the worst. So
Hmm.
when things changed, I kind of like gagged and it was kind of like,
You felt like people would naturally just
thank you,
go want you to lose
thank
or want.
you. Yeah, I feel like a lot of times they naturally, I would always get to the last battle and then they would just let me lose. I'll go through 13 bitches. Here I come battling somebody. And it's like, missing. But I never let it affect me. I feel like it took a while for me to finally feel like, oh, let me speak back, let me read back, let me,
Yeah.
snap back at these hoes. 'Cause I feel like after a while, I'm like, bitch, I've done so much and there's still like no respect. Why there's, especially when I'm not a messy person, I'm not in people's business, I'm not like,
Was a lot. Was it coming from Mizrahi?
no. I feel like it came from a lot of people, but I feel like when you're in a house, especially when you're a part of a certain house for a very long time, they make you feel like you're a part of a family. So they
Yeah.
have your back.
Yeah.
And when you leave, you don't kind of get the same support.
Yeah. Once you had reached that level of kind of boss celebrity, wh- when you confidence is one thing because I know we all have to have it when we go into a floor. Did Were you ever in a space of feeling like you did lose or like you did get ate, or was it just like not a thing
Yeah.
in your mind? Oh,
I
really?
feel like there was times where I'm like, girl, you played over there. What the fuck are you
Any
doing?
specific one? Any girl got you that you know goddamn well?
I won't do that on here because the girls like to feel it.
Yeah.
But I'm quite sure I've ate the girls more than I've gotten eaten. So.
Yeah. I'm sure my stomach sits a little fuller than the other girl. It's no immediate. Wait, have you because do you get along well with the other female figure girls
Um,
that walk before me?
On my end, always. Like, you've always seen that. Lose or win. I always hug, smiles,
Yeah.
none of that. I feel like the girls would see me after I would eat them up. Because, sometimes I would really carry. And it's like, it'd be your girlfriend. And for me, on the floor is on the floor. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. That's a whole different girl.
Yeah.
I don't care if we girlfriends or not. We're going to have fun. I win or lose, we're going to have fun. But, like, I noticed that certain girls would stop speaking and certain girls would give, like, certain energies. And I'm a type of girl, I don't do fake energy.
Was it
So
like
once you give it up to me once,
was it all ballroom stuff or were you actually personally cool
no,
with these girls and then
it was always ballroom stuff. Because I never really got close to too many people in the ballroom scene. Even still to this day, no shade. I could probably count in one hand, maybe a little bit of my second hand, how many people I'm really close to in the ballroom scene. But that's something that I didn't do purposely. I just felt like a lot of people in the scene, they moved that way in order for them to, feel fab or like get certain accolades. And I
yeah.
never wanted that. I wanted to make sure that I was going to work hard for what I've got.
I remember like when we would be at different times, I don't know if you remember, but there would be times in Escalita where I know those times that you were talking about where we would literally just watch you shake a building and unfortunately lose. And I would get so upset sometimes. I would pull you to the side when you would go and want to grab the mic and talk like, you know what I mean? Like you could see that even though you're saying like you were humble and walked into it, you could see that you felt God or you
Mm-hmm.
felt like somebody took advantage and you would grab the mic and I was like, oh, like Omi, like don't do that. Like, you know what I mean? Because the girls,
That's around the
when
time when
you
I got
reach,
frustrated.
yeah,
Yeah,
when
that's the time
you
when I
reach
started getting
that
frustrated.
level,
Like, bitch, why they still trying me? Let me read these hoes.
yeah, why are they
This
still
y'all
trying
want
you?
a bitch to read? Nah.
And you would grab the mic and I would be like, Omi, like, stop, what are you doing? And you know, like, it wouldn't even be in front of everybody. Like,
No,
I
no,
would
I know,
grab
I
you
know.
and we'd be to the side and you'd be like, no, I know, no, I know. Like, they just, and I was like, no, bitch, I get you. But yeah, so that makes sense. That makes sense. So now we're in the epochal reign of Leomi. It's when you're winning, you're losing, but no matter what is happening, you become a phenom. So that becomes a roller coaster ride. When did you get, or when do you feel like you got plucked out of the crop to actually stand alone? I'm more so talking about this is now international is happening.
Mm-hmm.
You become now a global figure in our scene. So like, what was that transition and how did you walk into that?
I feel like it happened so fast, and it was a time where I did feel defeated because, okay, so I feel like when I got on America's Best Dance Crew, I didn't realize how important that moment was for us outside of like, I just wanted them to understand where voguing
Was
came from and to
that a
respect it as a
positive
dance.
experience?
We're gonna get there. I'm a detailed girl. We're gonna get there. You can ask questions if you want to, details. We can get into details. But I felt like the stuff that I went through while being on the show had me frustrated, and at the time I was not ready to deal with that. My frustration was frustration. Once I be like, whatever, it was whatever. I'm a Taurus, very stubborn at heart. So at the time, I was really on my I see red, and that's it.
Yeah,
But
Phoenix.
and I felt like it was certain things that happened that made me feel like I was over it. But after the show, the way they portrayed me, I'm like, damn, I'm never gonna be able to take my career anywhere because I was looked at to be a bitch. I walked out
Mm-hmm.
of a rehearsal because they gave me a pair of spray painted rain boots, and I was in that little cage with my ankles hurting, and they did not want to change my shoes and had an attitude with me about changing my shoes. And then I didn't do the walk-in, I didn't do the dress rehearsal, and then they made a whole big deal out of it. And then it was like crazy because you know how I don't know if you remember watching the show, but they will always show a clip of us preparing the week
Yeah,
of.
yeah.
So the week that Little Mama tried it, I'm sitting there in our pose. We get to watch the same clip that y'all watch,
Mm-hmm.
and it's our first time watching it. So they showed the clip of the stuff that happened prior to last week, and they showed all of my members talking about how working with me was walking like eggshells and all this stuff. How everybody's so disappointed, but nobody said nothing to me. So
Right.
I gagged. I'm like,
So
oh
like
shit.
also you're coming into that team was comprised of at that time some of our top girls in ballroom. You were
Very true.
technically the underdog. Did that become an issue on set? Like could the girls like could you
That
put
did become an issue, especially because week one they gave me my life. They gave I think the first week they gave me my life. They gave Prince their life. The second week they gave me, Deshawn, and Prince their life. Then the third week it was all about Leomi. But I feel like after the second week that we did the Beyonce thing, the choreographer of our team, our group, I won't drop no names, but the choreographer for the group,
put the
um,
group?
he would try to like put me in the back. And they would have these overall choreographers that would come in to look at our performances to be like, hey, maybe you should work on this, maybe this would work better on camera, just to give a tip.
Critiquing it, yeah.
And they were realizing it. They was like, why do y'all keep pushing her to the back? And I will only be used for stunts. So
I mean we
it
know
got frustrating.
we
I'm
know
like,
we
I
all
felt like
know who your team members were.
I feel like once being a part of something and then I didn't have a say so of choreography or what we were, delivering to the world. I felt like I was just a pawn. Like I was just there. I was over it.
Yeah.
I got over it.
When it all ended was it really true that like it ended because of like the dishonesty in the group with the money handling?
The overall group, yes. At the time I was living in Virginia and they were getting booked a lot, but I was never called for booking, but they called me for a specific booking. We had to go somewhere, and then I was told that the gig was canceled.
Mm.
So then I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't have to come to New York. And then Monday comes, I'm up in the morning, and then I'm on Twitter, and the girls are on their way to the airport to go to the gig. So then up, I hit up one of my brothers in the group. We're very close, and I hit him up, and
Are they
he
like
tells me,
skin by any chance?
no, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not at
We're
all.
very close. We've worked a lot together,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um but they told me that they were told that I didn't want to come on the gig. And then that's when I'm like, huh? What's going on? So I paid it. Then we had another gig going in Canada. I'm like, okay, fab, we're going to Canada. Let's go. Mind you, this is before I really started traveling because this is literally right after America's Best Dance Crew. So I didn't start traveling teaching yet. Um, so the we get the information, but I'm looking at the rates and I'm like, no shade. Why are we going to Canada for
For
this amount of
this.
money? And then we have to get on the buses because the ones that weren't my girlfriends didn't have passports, so we would have had to like get on a bus to like go all the way to Canada. And I felt like that was an inconvenience anyways, because I had my passport, and I could have had a, I could have just flown. But I reached out to the people in Canada and I told them that I wasn't going to be able to make it, but I wanted to do it myself, so it doesn't seem like Leomi was a no-show, like they made it seem for other gigs. And that's when the Canadians were very surprised, and then they sent me the rate that they actually has sent. And that's when I was like, oh shit. And then I called my friend that I'm very close to and part of the group. And I'm like, hey, you should call around of everyone you've been booked for prior to this to find out what were the rates then.
Wow.
And then that's when they found
And
out that
it
they
was
were
like
being under.
within the group, only one person was kind of speaking up and handling the bookings and all of that.
Yes.
That's so unfortunate. I'm so sorry that happened. A lot of times, like, especially now with the ballroom being so commercial, that's one of the main things that really hold us back in these rooms. Now, we have the gatekeepers and all of the girls doing the thing, booking their girlfriends. However, dishonesty on these levels always expose a bitch that like tries to hold another bitch back. And it literally comes out every time.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the situation, look how it worked out.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'll say, you know. Did it change you? Did it kind of, because you went into that space, did that kind of put a bruise on you going into like
It
any
didn't
sort of,
because I'm a gag. I'm gonna spill some tea. So around the time right before I got on America's Best Dance Crew, I get a call and it's Missy Elliott, like literally calling my phone just to tell me that she loves me and that she appreciates what I do with Vogue and
wow,
stuff like that.
Missy
And
Elliott.
Missy Elliott. So till this day, me and her have yet to meet, but we kiki on the phone, we text, like we kiki on Twitter, like, but we have yet to meet till this day. But throughout America's Best Dance Crew, she was in my right ear, and she was like, "Listen, Leomi, stay on this as long as you can. I'm telling you, this is gonna help you out." Blah 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 blah. And even after, she popped up at a gig in Atlanta where Vogue Evolution was booked that I didn't know about, and she popped up thinking
Another one that you did.
she was, another one that I didn't know about, but she popped up telling me that, she was gonna surprise me, but she was surprised that Leomi wasn't there. So
A mess.
yeah.
I'm,
But
I'm,
things like that kept me up because I felt like, like I'm like, okay, something is gonna happen. And then literally right after all that stuff happened, that like all that chaos happened, I got reached out for with my hair. So that
it's
was like,
it's the
I'm
way it
working with
always
children.
works.
I said, I'm working with children. I've been saved.
It's, it's the way it always works. I swear to you, it just does. But that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a
Yeah.
fucked up thing. So, so now we're there. And because that was even before all of the stuff, but that was like everybody remembers that was one of the first kind of introductions mainstream got to ballroom.
Yes.
So like that's crazy. You go from there, and now you're a global superstar. When you were traveling the world and teaching people Vogue, in that way of sharing, what did you feel like? Did you feel a responsibility to do it? Did you feel like it was your thing, or was it just you enjoying the opportunities of the access you now have?
I feel like it was a responsibility for me. I feel like Vogan has always been so important to me beyond ballroom. It started in ballroom, but coming into certain spaces and seeing how ballroom was like laughed at often,
Like
and Vogan
mocked.
Vogan seen as a ridiculed
Mhm.
dance and the gay dance, and then coming into America's Best Dance Crew where all the dancers that auditioned knew who the fuck I was, and I'm like, bitch, I was gagging at the time because like these are straight people, dancers, like hip hop dancers and everything. And that made me like, okay, this is something that I need to be a part of. I need to be a part of that change where ballroom is seen outside of like the kiki and the entertainment. And that's when, traveling, I was so hard on myself teaching because I wanted to do it right. I didn't want to just teach, oh, I'm teaching choreography and here I go back home and all they're doing is my choreography. I wanted to actually teach them what voguing was, the essence of vogue, from the elements to how to feel the music facial expressions, how to like break down beats. Like I literally had to teach myself how to teach because I felt like it was important. I didn't want people to look at it as a kiki, like, oh yeah, I could do it too. Even though a lot of people are doing it now. But
I was gonna say, do you feel like that was the outcome that you got?
I feel like it's positive and negative in a sense. It's positive because the people in ballroom who actually have taken the advantage of these doors that have been open, they're getting their flowers, you know, the people who actually take their step. But then you have all these people who are not really a part of ballroom, and you know they're getting their things, and it's like you can't even be mad at them because they're dedicated. Some of the girls in the scene, they're not dedicated, and I feel like that's something that you know the scene lacks. They lack dedication.
Yeah. When people would kind of, because I'm even one of them, for a really long time, it took me a while to adapt to the European culture of the scene, only because in my mind I'm like, bitch, I'm on this side of the world and I can't even figure out the scene. So like, we got that new clue in here when it was all happening, and the negative kind of correlation that went with a lot of that with the people that were voguing. Did you feel a responsibility? Like, do you feel like it was your fault? Like, did you wear any of that? Like, I was the first one to teach
No,
it.
because I wasn't the first one. Gag, Danielle and Javier were already traveling before me. They were traveling before me.
They
Where
didn't have your name, though.
yeah, and that's the thing. But when I got to those places, these people already knew. They already knew certain things. They already had the scene. It's not like I went somewhere and I like helped them start their
Created.
scene. You
Yeah,
know,
like
I never was the one to help them create their scene. So I never felt that. I just feel like people don't speak up, and that's the problem. You can have people make mistakes. There are things that maybe, hey, we shouldn't have done, period, to do cross certain things, certain bridges, but it's mistakes. If you're gonna hold on to somebody's mistakes, then what are you gonna do about it? I feel like that's the problem with the scene. They want to read someone for what they did, what they do, and how it damaged, but a lot of those people do nothing for the scene, positive or negative. I feel like me traveling, going overseas to the world, I was going to majority of the times that I did go overseas, I wasn't going overseas for ballroom competitions. I feel like the ballroom competition started a little bit later.
They
When
were
I first,
dance competitions.
yeah, it was dance competition. So I was seeing like the hip hop dancers do their thing where they had their set of judges. Then they had the whackers come out. They had their set of judges. Then they started doing the voguers. So that was a bridge that needed to be crossed because of how they didn't respect the
The scene
scene. Dancers
and the
overall.
style of Vogue.
Yes, and I'm gonna give you a quiet example. I went somewhere in Czech Republic, and this is my first time going to like a camp. First time in a camp, I was gagging. Lots of mosquitoes. You know, we intense and stuff. The classes are outside, bitch. I'm gagging like, what is going on? But you know, it's a part of what they do. It's a dance camp. What am I expecting?
What did they need?
So, but I realized that like the first few days, I was there for like a whole week and a half. But like the first 2 days, everything was fine until like everybody started realizing like, oh yeah, she's the transsexual from America, honey.
The transsexual from America. My God.
She's a transsexual.
But and also you never really had body like that, so it was still like
I was getting athletic fish, but over there, and that's another thing. Going overseas, I learned to love my body because all the women were built like me, baby. And
black chested,
they would come to me and they would hold on to my arms, bitch. I felt like the real
all
life Wonder.
slim.
I felt like the real life Wonder Woman. They coming to me, grabbing onto my arms and rubbing on my six pack, crying, talking about how much they love my body type, and you know that made me love my body type. But back to what I was saying. So I'm sitting in this place and I realized that the dancers now started acting weird towards me, like the trade and everything, because there was trade there. Started acting weird, giving me side eyes, people talking under their breath and stuff. And I'm like, oh, hell no, I don't feel comfortable now. And then here comes the day where I have to do the judging. And every judge, you have an option to do a solo, you know, to show them what you got. So at first I'm like, I'm not doing that shit. I'm not fucking voguing for these people. Fuck it, I'm going to just sit in my chair and I'm going to judge what I need to judge. And then I'm like, no, Leomi, like, come on, you need to show them the fuck out.
I think a lot of people probably have no idea that you will actually go through that, because in the scene, of course, in voguing and all of that kind of stuff, when we see people, a lot of time when you see people branch out and you see what they're doing, we think that, oh, this bitch is out here sharing, she telling secrets, blah, 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 blah. So then when you're going online and then you're like critiquing people or pulling them accountable for like, this girl isn't even ballroom, to people that don't know this, you look like a hater. You know what I mean? Like, you look
True.
like you're trying to stop this girl's bag, or, oh, they're jealous because I didn't get it, or like she doesn't, you know what I
That's
mean? So like,
true.
outside of that, you're literally standing in a sea of vultures being beat up personally, but literally standing there and taking it on your own.
Very true.
Phoenix.
But gag, So I vote for them. I carried. After I get off of this, I'm gonna send you the video. I carried where I even jumped off the stage into this beanbag twice into my little carried for them. And I stood up back. Everybody was on their feet. After that, even the train came, hugged me, gave me my life in their little languages, telling me good job, good job. Like I was like, bitch, dance is a language of its own. And I cried. And I cried after that. It was a moment where I'm like, girl, like you made ballroom proud right now, even though they don't know and they can't take you, bitch. But you did what you needed to do. Now they love us.
Yeah, and now they love, bitch. They love us a little too much. That's part two, cause like, yeah, I'm definitely getting into that. So now the scene, the world accepts you. Did you at any point feel like you had plateaued? Where you waited? If I'm segueing our way into legendary, but more so like you're now reaching all of this. Were the gigs coming? Was it just still voguing? Was it still a fight, or had you
It was
gotten to
still
a
a
place
fight.
where
No shade. I've been fighting to the age of 30, no shade. And that's the year that I actually did Nike. I feel like prior to that, I had to take every gig, be overseas. I had to do things. And I feel like even here in America, they wasn't booking me here. A lot of organizations, they would hit me up. I would give them a set price. And I wasn't a girl where I was like asking for thousands and thousands of dollars. This was still my beginning. So I wasn't a girl who was asking for like, $30,000 and stuff like that. Like nowhere near that. And I felt like people were getting that. There are people who are getting that, and they were doing the things that are not in the same, not from the scene, but artists as well. But it wasn't until for a while. I feel like a lot of times people just see it as like, oh yeah, she's doing all these things, she's living her life, and it was like, no, I was still struggling, honey. It took a while for me to get comfortable. It wasn't until like these past 6 years that I've been able to be like, wow, like you really did your thing,
in the
girl.
past, like in the past just 6 years?
Yes.
And mind you, a lot
I
of
feel
people
like
probably
before
don't even
that,
realize.
I'm
A lot of people
36
don't even
now.
realize your career spans like almost 20 years now.
It is, God, exactly 20 years, because 16.
20 years. You're old, girl.
Am I?
She's where, bitch?
Old looks great.
Like 20 years. Was
Yeah, it is 20
Nike, of
years.
course Nike was like an insane deal, but was Nike the first stop on like now a speeding train?
Yes, it was. I was, especially because Nike kept a relationship with me. A lot of times, you get gigs here and there, you do campaigns, they live for you and stuff, but it's not a relationship. I feel like with Nike, I was able to use Nike to give back to ballroom. Like, I had times where I had houses come in with like 5 or 6 members each house, and they came into a room where it was just a bunch of Nike gear where they was able to shop and take whatever they wanted home. I went to HMI and I made sure that they donated to HMI, that they donated clothes to HMI, and I did a free workshop for the kids. Like, I was able to work with them and do something more outside of a campaign. And even the campaign, a lot of people, and like I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. A lot of people don't probably realize how important the Nike campaign was to myself, because as I was shooting, yeah, shout out for Nike. As I was shooting the campaign, I didn't really know exactly how they were going to put it together. Like, yeah, I'm doing all these scenes and I'm doing this and this and that, and they told me about the mood board, but I don't know exactly how they're putting it together. And I did not know about Precious and her voiceover poem. I did not know about that. So when I watched it, the first day that I watched it was the first
That was
day
the first time you heard it?
yes. And mind you, I watched it on live on Facebook with my fans. I put it on the thing and I watched it. As I watched it, I was reacting, I gagged, I was crying and everything.
I
Because
cried.
I didn't realize how much the campaign was going to mean to me and my journey. It's never like that. A lot of times they just use you for campaigns, and yeah, it's a beauty campaign that they don't really go into depth of who you are. But that was about like Leiomi's journey and what it took for me to get to where I was.
Bitch, when I first saw that campaign, first of all, it was so brilliantly done. The director, the cinematography, the
Yes.
way that they edited,
Shout out to Daisy. She was behind the cameras.
it was so phenomenal. Like I'm a film and TV girl, so like I dive into that kind of stuff. When Precious says on that motherfucking commercial, "Do you know how you saved me, Lay?" And you
I
come and
cried.
spin around into that dip and lay into the floor, and they say, "Fly, Lay, fly." I was bawling. I was bawling,
Me
and
too.
I was bawling also because I was like, I know that girl. I remembered that little girl
And
in
then, and
YMCA in a sneaker.
no
Now
shade.
she's coming down the street alone in a catwalk for Nike. Like I literally, Leomi, I promise you, I cried. I thought it
I,
was
I cried too. And then the billboard was a surprise because the billboard was not supposed to happen. They gagged that my campaign won second spot worldwide of ads of the week.
it was beautiful.
And then it won like the first in the US. So that's why they was like, oh no, you're getting a billboard. So when I went to go see the billboard, that was a whole nother situation. Like just standing in the corner and I'm just waiting for the video to start. And then it starts and I'm like, wow, like
It was
in my own city.
in that fulfillment and all that you've done, were you met with the same kind of joy when you finally kind of now came back into ballroom a little bit heavier?
I don't think so. I feel like ballroom still is kind of like hesitant at giving me my life, which is weird. I feel like ballroom thinks that I'm overrated, and they feel like I have like this huge head because I'm very opinionative, and I have passion for ballroom. It's outside of just like a kiki thing,
It
and I
saved
feel
you.
like
It saves us.
yeah, and I feel like a lot of people, especially nowadays, they don't experience ballroom the way we did. We needed that. Like that was our safe haven for real, for real, for real.
Yeah,
And I've come to a point where I don't even care no more.
I
I'm
think you
still
do.
gonna do what I need to
'Cause you
do.
still care. You
I
still
care.
care.
I care in a sense where if y'all bitches want me to vote for me, y'all need to put y'all phones down and clap. No shade. That's the least I can ask. I'm a girl that performs from emotions and from
Yeah.
the
Well,
reaction
I
of the
think now,
crowd.
now when we hit the floor, a lot of these girls were raised on us through media tapes, whether it be VHS clips, YouTube, all of this kind of stuff. That when they actually see us in person, that they want to record, and it was
Mhm.
like it's still weird to me. Like when I'm places and I get an LSS, and it's like you hear somebody telling people to clap, and I'm like, all these bitches know like what we're about to do, like but they want the clip, so very tricky.
No
But
shade.
yeah, it's weird that like I could imagine that when you kind of come back into that crabs in a barrel thing is a real thing that someone else created to divide us. Crabs
Hmm.
don't belong in barrels. However, they try to separate. If you crabs on the ocean floor, bitch, they mind their business and eat. You
That's
put them in
true.
a battle, they all want to
Hmm.
get out. But like when you get out, people will try to take that crab away from the barrel and the idea that it made it, but you never get to go back into that mix because now everybody thinks that you were a sellout. You got out the game.
Hmm.
They don't meet you with the
But
same joy.
and a lot of people don't realize that I've given a lot of bitches gigs. No shade. I call the girls in because when I'm in certain spaces and they're like, "Hey, we need a group," they call me. They look out to me, and if I don't want to do the gig, I'll be like, "Oh, you should reach out to this person. Reach out to this person." I make sure. And even when they do book the people, I hit up the person. I'm like, "They treating you right? Are you good?" Because I never want to put somebody through something and then they gag and have like a messed up situation where they're not getting paid their what they deserve or they're not being treated right. Yes, because I feel like as dancers, a lot of times we're overlooked. No
Mm-hmm.
shade. And gig spaces, I've been lucky because I'm not just looked as a dancer. Like I'm not like a back. They don't see me as like a backup dancer or like a person who's just gonna get on stage and do choreo. I'm an artist. I'm a specialty. That's what they call me, a specialty, because I'm a freestyle girl. They want to see Lamu do what she does best. But for dancers overall, it's tough out there. So when I get dancers booked and stuff, I gotta make sure that they good. Cause I feel like how could I not? Why not
Because it's
use
gonna
my
fall
privilege
back on you.
to help them out?
Yeah, you
Yeah, and it's
put
ballroom.
the
Like
girl again.
we're all representing the same community. And I feel like that's the problem with a lot of people. They don't think about the community that they're representing. A lot of these people, they get a gig or two and then they do things and you don't see them again.
Community is one thing that I kind of stay away from as a conversation when it deals with certain things, because it is and can be extremely performative. I watch the way people gatekeep certain individuals, the way that they align themselves with different gigs. I've watched, a lot of people don't realize I'm on the production side of a lot of this kind of things. A lot of the girls, I'm in the room while I'm listening to the critique, all of those
Mm-hmm.
comments. And sometimes it's hard because it's like, I don't know the bitch, i.e. Pose. But community is something that a lot of people use as this white flag to get them in the room. And when that door closes and the cameras and mics are off, community is really the last thing that they're talking about. They're talking for self. And
That
unfortunately,
happened with Legendary, but we'll get there.
bitch, Legendary is part fucking two. Legendary is part fucking two. We going into Legendary. We going into the category switch. But I wanted people to get this foundation. But yeah, like a lot of people, like I work on that side of things, and production is a whole different side, because that's why this segue is so important, because you technically went from talent into now
Mm-hmm.
talent that has to deal with production.
And when the ballroom scene try to give like I'm problematic, baby, I'll be problematic in those spaces too, baby,
Yeah.
because I'm not the girl to say yes to everything. I've said no way more to things that have came my way than I have said yes. Because for me, my integrity comes first, and you have to protect something.
Yeah. Were a lot of people with you, with like, I mean, whether it be Nike and all of the other gigs and things of that nature, did you have a circle of like, say, ballroom family around you that were working with you and all that kind of stuff heading up into Legendary? Or this was like kind of your thing?
I did, because even with Nike, I was able to choose everybody that was a part. Like I made sure that I reached out to the ballroom kids for them to be a part of it. That's how Precious is a part of it. A few of my kids was a part of it. Like I always try to keep everyone, around. I feel like even when working on the Pose, I was working with people that I gagged, like to build relationships and to see them. I've known them outside of that. I've known them outside of those spaces, but to work with them and to be around those spaces, I feel like that was so beautiful. And personally, for me, Pose for me was like a gag, because to see so much of our people in spaces and on those sets, to me was so refreshing, and it was so different. And it sucks to say that it was so different, because it should have been normal.
Baby. And I worked first team design.
Mm-hmm.
It was so wild when they found out I was a part of ballroom. They literally felt like I was an op,
That's how it
because
is,
I've
because
been
you know too
sitting
much.
I've
Now
been
you know too
sitting in
much.
these combos. I've heard you misgender. And ironically, when I eventually spoke up, the final week of that show, they figured out how to terminate me. And they did it in a very corporate way. I was accused of screenshotting passwords for a computer. I'm like, girl, we don't do that. Like, that's not even a thing. But it was just the idea that, oh my God, I called the little hotline, told them about them misgendering somebody that we both know, and literally had to speak up. I was like, this is wrong. This is just insane. It took less than a week for them to just sift out the situation, who was there, what was there. I was the only girl, but they also knew that they couldn't figure out why everybody lived for me, because they thought it was from celebrity styling work. So like, when I would come downtown, you would like run up and meet me. Tyra's running up and meet me. Trace, all of these girls are like, how does this bitch know
Like
all of
with me, it was like so fun. Like with me and Genovia, we got to know each other through Pose, because Genovia was the one that was working, making sure that we was there, making sure, especially because I was the choreographer, to make sure that I was there, making sure everything was on set, making sure that I knew what I was coming in to do, to work on.
Mm,
Like that was beautiful to see the girls,
yeah.
in positions having
Yeah.
power.
And it was just so crazy, just like the way entertainment works, because it's like soon as the girls get power, you want them to do the right thing and all that kind of stuff, but it's only at certain
Hmm.
levels it can do certain things. And a lot, they're not in those conversations when production and wardrobe is talking about all this kind of stuff. But I digress. Pose is behind us. Before we take the little commercial break, when did Legendary start becoming a conversation?
Oh, for me, I found out about Legendary a few months before we started filming. I think we started filming, it was 2019,
Mm-hmm.
the beginning of 2019, because that's when COVID hit.
Okay. Yeah, because it was after
And it
COVID.
was in
Yeah,
Connecticut. We started
yeah.
filming like around
I can't.
January-ish. But I found out about it like maybe 2 months prior to that.
Yeah.
They were conversations, smaller conversations about the show overall, which is when they started doing the pilot, which was months before that. But even like around that time, the pilot and stuff, they didn't use anyone from New York. It was mostly LA based, which is why they wanted to bring it to the East Coast because they knew the East Coast was where the mecca of ballroom started.
Yeah. So that's exciting. So yeah. So everybody, I know y'all. I'm reading the things. Everybody's diving into this motherfucking chat. I'm gonna break it for 5 minutes. We're gonna save it. When we come back, we're gonna keep talking to Leomi. We're gonna talk about her switching, going into a new category, what that means. We're gonna talk about the journey on Legendary, why the show stopped, and our new house, as she is in the house of Mugler. We will be back in 5. This is the Keys to Success with Leiomy Maldonado. I'll see you guys in a second.